What is up, guys? I'm Rick Kakis, and today we have the ultimate Season of the Splicer guide for Destiny 2, talking about all of the different reward sources added this season, how to use them, the most efficient upgrade paths, and a ton of tips and tricks in general for Override and more, so you can make the most of this season, get the most efficient rewards as fast as possible, and so let's get started. And first things first, let's talk about Umbral Engrams. So there's going to be a new vendor subscreen called Season of the Splicer. When you click it, the process of focusing Umbrals is pretty much identical to what it was last season. So once you earn an Umbral Engram, you can go here and focus it to narrow its loot pool. If you only want, for example, the new seasonal grenade launcher or auto rifle, you spend some resources and you can only get one of those two things, which is great if you're farming one or both of those. But you're gonna see initially that a lot of these focused Umbral Engrams are locked off. Well, it turns out you have to do specific triumphs in order to complete them. As you can see right here, you simply dive into the triumph screen, navigate your way to the Season of the Splicer recaster rewards, and once you complete the objectives, you simply click on those triumphs. They won't auto-complete, that's important. You do have to actually go and manually do this. And then, as you can see, when you go back to the vendor subscreen, you have new options available. However, here's the really important thing. The resource it uses to focus Umbral Engrams is decrypted data. And that's actually the same resource that you need to upgrade your Splicer Gauntlet that we're going to talk about next. So I would actually recommend not spending any, literally zero decrypted data on Umbral Engrams until you've upgraded your gauntlet to a sufficient place. That's what I've done. I have not focused any Umbral Engrams besides the world drop weapon focusing, so you only get weapons. Obviously that's probably what you want, and that costs zero decrypted data, and I would highly recommend you do the same. Don't get overly greedy trying to get an auto rifle and then not be able to upgrade your gauntlet so much that you're getting more rewards in general. Either way you cut it, you're going to have to grind the overload activity to get data. Might as well actually make that activity more rewarding with the resources you get instead of spending all those resources on Umbral Engrams. So let's move on from there and talk about that Splicer Gauntlet. So, it turns out the Splicer Gauntlet upgrades are actually quite a bit different than last season's hammer upgrades, with the main difference being that the Splicer Gauntlet upgrades are uncapped. You can technically unlock every single available upgrade in the first week of this new season dropping. And you're gonna see right here, I already have multiple tier 3 upgrades. That is very much different than the hammer upgrades where you would have to play every single week to get enough resources to get just a few upgrades. So it still follows the same path of if you want to get a tier 3 upgrade, you will need the tier 1 green upgrade, and then that unlocks the ability to buy the tier 2 upgrade in that same row, and then finally once you get the tier 2 upgrade, you get the tier 3 upgrade. So you have to go down in a row with your upgrades. Now if you're looking at your gauntlet and you only have, for example, the green upgrades available, that's because you don't have enough resources. Once you get the 300 decrypted data that it costs to get a blue upgrade, they will light up and then be available for purchase. Now there are some locked upgrades that are coming later in the season, and obviously when those do come, you can simply just use your own insight, take a look at those. If they're resource based, if you're getting more rewards from them, you want to focus on them, otherwise not really. So of the available upgrades, what is the best path to take? What should you spend your resources on? Well, the first one I would recommend is memory expansion. This is going to increase your ether capacity by 50 and the amount of key codes you can hold from 3 to 4. So The reason I would pick this first is because it makes your total ether 150, and that means you can make 3 key cards out of it, which means that you can do all 3 of your override activities to get your pinnacle every single week. Otherwise, you're gonna have to do 2 overrides because you only have enough for 2 key cards, and then you're gonna have to go do another activity and then come back to override, and I really don't like that. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys right now, I'm really high on the memory expansion upgrades. I got all the way to tier 3 pretty quickly. I think this was my first tier 3 because due to the way I play, I really don't like wasted resources, right? So if I'm playing the game, I'm gonna do 3 strikes to get that pinnacle, I'm gonna do 3 crucible matches to get that pinnacle, and the entire time I'm getting ether. I really don't like, having 1 more strike to do and I'm already maxed out on a low value of ether. That means I'm doing a strike and I'm losing resources. If I have the maximum memory expansion, it means I don't have to worry about, taking a break from whatever I'm doing and then making a bunch of key cards or going into override so I don't waste potential materials. If I'm maxed out, it means I have potentially all 6 cards ready to go. As you can see, that's what I have right here, and it means I can grind the crap out of override when I need to. I can do 2 characters worth of pinnacle rewards come next reset, and that's why I'm so high on memory expansion. However, it's not the only really good upgrade I would focus on. The next one that you'd really want to grab right away actually is override efficiency. This will get you better rewards out of the end chests at override. So the normal chests will have a better chance to drop the seasonal weapons and armor, and then the conflux chests will give you more Umbral Engrams, and they can drop up to, with the tier 3 upgrade, 3 focus Umbral Engrams per week. So no matter what you're doing, if you're going for more Gauntlet upgrades, if you're trying to focus Umbral Engrams, you need decrypted data. And one of the only ways to get it is to grind overload, so you might as well make those chests at the end just more rewarding. And it's always nice to get kind of that extra reward. If you get the auto rifle, the pulse rifle, whatever from that normal chest, that is because of this upgrade usually. So what I would do is get memory expansion 1, then the override efficiency 1, and then lastly, get ether filter 1, and this is going to make defeated combatants have a higher chance to drop ether. Now here's the thing, I've found you really only need ether filter 1 because I'll do a strike and get 100 ether. That's enough for 2 keys. Like, that is a lot. So I've really not found myself running out of ether at any point, which means I would then focus on getting the tier 2 and 3 upgrades of the memory expansion and then of better chests. And I would kind of go tier 2 memory expansion, tier 2 chests, tier 3 memory expansion, tier 3 chests in that order. Now you may be wondering about all the other tier 1 upgrades. Well, frankly, they're all useless. Like, honestly, getting a little bit more heavy ammo, who cares? Taking less damage, who cares? More platforms even, who cares? If you do want to grab one, the more platforms is kind of useful, but frankly, there's 6 other players. Just one of them's got to have this upgrade to go through that gauntlet faster, and then they're going to drag you to that boss fight. It makes up almost no time, and I would much rather spend my resources in things that are actually going to affect my rewards. Now, let's move on to the override activity, but just before we do, remember there's a few other additional sources of decrypted data. So, in your seasons past, there's a few levels that reward it. The initial quest certainly does, and there's going to be weekly challenges that also reward it. There certainly was this week, and the next week there'll be even more, so make sure to be doing all of those while also grinding override for the maximum amount of resources. But again, let's talk about override. So some tips and tricks here. First off, I would recommend using something with anti-barrier rounds, simply because if you run across an overload champion, you can just melt it, frankly, especially with 6 people on your fire team. Even a barrier champion you're often going to melt, but if they do get that shield up, you can't really do anything, so might as well just have something to pierce through it. Also, remember, during the first encounter when you are banking moats essentially, there's going to be times when the portal opens up. You really want to be paying attention to this and going through that portal. It's going to lead you to a champion. When you kill that champion, you get a data spike that you can deposit. Now here's the thing, this was actually just confirmed by Bungie that randomly you will find a loot goblin essentially in the final boss room, and if you kill that guy, he's gonna drop a bunch of decrypted data, like around 25-ish decrypted data, and that's a lot. That's comparable to a full run. So you definitely want that guy to spawn, and he actually has a random chance of spawning, but that chance is higher if you've banked more data spikes. So always be sure to go into those portals, grab those data spikes, and plant them. And the other thing to keep in mind involving data spikes is after you've deposited, I think 3 of them, you get the buff Splicers Will. As you can see here, I'm depositing the last one within the boss fight, I get Splicers Will, and all of my abilities, especially my super, just rocket up. They recharge suddenly way faster. That's what that buff does. So make sure that you're using your supers in maybe the second damage phase of the boss or the first, because you're likely to get it back in the third because of Splicer's Will and use it again, right? But one last thing to keep in mind, if you go to the Splicer servitor, you can see a bunch of rewards in the bottom row. These are brand new armor mods that you can unlock, but they're actually based on your reputation rank, with the final one being unlocked at rank 10, and you increase your rank by simply doing override activities. Like, you don't have to upgrade your Splicer Gauntlet a certain way. You don't have to unlock a certain amount of rewards. You just have to grind override. Keep that in mind. That's how it's connected here. And so guys, that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at @RickKakis. That's linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.